Cool, we're back in. I started doing some work on this, so I thought it might be a good idea to actually have a chat about where I'm going next. Now, we started out with, I've actually moved our bus compressor and changed it, so we're still kind of got that distortion on the Lindell bus, followed by now the townhouse, because I actually prefer it on this mix, getting a bit more obvious swing and movement out of this, so that's another discussion, but it's the same way that I discover the attack and release on the townhouse, on the Shadow Hills mastering compressor, just less fiddly, because I do tend to find that I'm moving backwards and forwards between things and kind of shifting the threshold, and one threshold's a lot easier to shift than two, plus I'm getting a more obvious kind of groove and swing off the VCA compressor. The big tube discrete compressor sounds beautiful and it's very, very forgiving, but on a mixed bus I kind of want a bit more of that kind of aggressive swing that I'm going to get off that. So we're doing that. Everything else has remained the same. So just so you know that that's there. The other thing we then did was we chose the console. Now the other thing that I've done since then is I've just frozen all of these down. So if I unfreeze, say, this vocal that I'm on here, so I'll just unfreeze that, you'll see, okay, there should be a, oh hang on, I think actually that's rubbish. In fact, I need to undo that, and I need to go back. Yes. So basically what I've done, let's go to, say, a guitar or something here, that'll be easier. So if I unfreeze there, you'll see that there's a console in there. So essentially what I've done is I've used freeze track to freeze the console sound into the track so I can keep going, so that I don't lose everything. Now I can unfreeze that and change a setting and then just freeze it back in. Or generally what I tend to do is freeze it all down in one go. Now for those of you that don't know, freeze just means keep all the settings, and once you've kept all of those settings, make sure that you don't have to, you can bring the plugin back and unfreeze things, and you can change a setting and then refreeze it back in. Means that it's like a non-destructive way of recording your plugin into your session. So I get the console sound, but I've just kept it on the ones that I want to work on. So in this case, the vocal pre-chorus and vocal chorus, I've done a little bit of playing around here, just trying to get some cool compression and things on this. So let's have a look at what I've done there. So let's just flip to our chorus vocal here. Oh, that's something else that we're going to be talking about in a second, and I will unsolo that for a second. So what I've done here is I've used the de-esser. So I just want to actually solo out that vocal so you can hear what I'm doing. On this console strip, again, I've just taken advantage of the things that are there. You'll notice my computer struggling a little bit. Let's listen to what I did. Taking some of that harshness out and using kind of the de-essers to deal with that. That can be a de-esser or an expander, so you can exaggerate things as well, which is kind of cool. I've then done a really fast attack compression with a slow release, and I've mixed that back a little bit. So I'm still getting the transient pops of the vocal, but I'm getting a really leveled out, especially with that. I've got like 3 vocals on there, so I really want to kind of smush them together using the compression, but I've run it in parallel so that I don't lose those attacks and transients. So listen, up that, you kind of lose it. Kind of pushes everything together, whereas if I drop this back, lovely, I'm getting kind of that. And as you can hear, the computer is definitely struggling with this. I should actually just check that I'm not on 64. And also, this. Dear God, everything. No, that should be fine. Okay, cool. Done. Now, for those of you that don't understand what I was just freaking out about there, was that first I have to get 2048 so I can actually mix. Now we're not getting the kind of crunchiness. It was on 64 samples, so it was really struggling there. The other thing that I was doing there was I've actually split my audio, so theoretically I should be recording this anyway without having to run it through here, and I don't actually want to run my audio of my Reaper into the session that you're listening to, so that's a little aside that I'll probably delete later. Let's go back into that. So that vocal, so this DS is really softening things off. Means I can push the top end a touch more. Cool, so let's watch what happens when I take the compression off. Kind of disappears. Take this off. Wow, that's what it's doing. Playing with the distortion here, so that distortion there, I'm just trying to get the kind of excitement out of the vocal. You probably would have heard it when it was in solo. There's quite a lot of distortion happening. Cool, so we've got that. The ambulance just drove past. Hope everyone's okay there. Now let's have a listen to this reverb. I have a whole bunch of convolution reverbs, and I've got a folder of reverbs, and I will put that, and I think I've already put it up on the blackboard. So all of you can access that. You'll have to ask me in the lecture sessions where I've put it, because I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's all there, and it's a short list of convolutions. And convolutions are like samples of real spaces that you can load into a free convolution loader. Now, in this case, Reaper has one, which is really kind of handy. I don't know why I'm paranoid about this, but I'm setting this to the same as my sound card, and it's unnecessary, but it's irrelevant. I added a time adjustment to give it some pre-delay here, so 30 millisecond pre-delay, and then the other thing that I've done is I've EQ'd this. I've added distortion, so let's hear what happens with, I'll just turn off some of the things I've done so you can have a listen to what this sounds like. So this is... So I've got drums and vocals going through that at the moment. So I'm going to add this in, and the first thing I'm doing is adding distortion. So I'll pull that off. Let's turn the all EQ off for a second. See what happens when I add distortion. Distortion to me tends to just widen that reverb and give it a bit more interest, a bit more non-linearity, and a bit more space, really. So the next thing I would do is just click 1 and just see if there's a cool channel. No. No. Oh, hello. That one's good. Cool. So essentially what's happening there is, these are different channels with slightly different variations on them, which we can use. We can like skip through these using just the one section. It'll only skip the single channel, and it'll kind of randomize one channel, or one pair of channels, sorry. So I'm just using that to actually find my reverb space. Probably should have done it in context, but if we go like this... Yeah, I do like that. I think we found the right one. So that distortion in the channels. Next thing I've done here is just a little bit of a bump on the EQ here. Just bring these back in. A little bit of top end here, and a little bit of sort of I'm at the 4K zone, just to bring out that snare. So take the EQ off. Snare drum disappeared. With it on. That snare drum. So the next thing I've done is a little bit of compression, not much, just fast attack, medium release. Now, the reason I'm using fast attack compression is actually to get it away from the transient, so it squashes the reverb before and then lets it out, which means that snare can still crack through. And And the final thing I've done is I don't like the way that the tail is kind of smashing over things, so I'll show you what I'm doing here. So I've just added a gate, so let's really get that in. There you go. I drop that. There you go. Cool, let's see what that sounds like in context. Now, for those of you who are on headphones, this is good hertz, and this is like a headphone crossover thing. So I'll just flip this on so you can actually have a listen to what it might sound like on speakers if you're not using speakers. So this is sort of an approximation of like a speaker sound. Now, all that really kind of gives me is an indication as to what it sounds like. I don't want to use it too much while I'm showing you things because you should know your own headphones and all that sort of thing, but I'm just using that just to check reverbs and things like that. And all that plugin is doing is adding a little bit of crossover frequency, so a bit of right to left, left to right on the headphone, so that you, and kind of a little bit of bass enhancement, which is what you'd sort of get from speakers. So I'm using that at the moment just to double check, especially now that I'm into kind of spatial stuff and I'm really thinking about the different arrangements there. So that's kind of giving me a good idea as to what's going on here. Next thing I wanted to do is my standard kind of spreader thing. I'll just use vocal classic 15 eps. I like the slower, but to be honest, I don't do it the way they say. I go dual echo. I'm using Echo Boy for those of you who are getting into the sound toys thing. Wicked stuff. Mix it 100%. Obviously, I do notes here, and I go 30-second, and I go 30-second dotted, and I've gone dual echo, and then full width. Now I want to have a listen to. Let's go to somewhere like the pre-chorus here. Less center that reverb, bit too much reverb there. Let's bring this in here on the echo. I want to listen to this, and then I want to add. Again, I'm just going to add another one of these bad boys. I like the sound of the distortion on this. Not a fan of the saturation on Echo Boy, so I've turned it off. And I'm going to use the saturation on this to make it sound cool. Get rid of some of that mud. About there. Maybe even the 12, and I'm going to do a high frequency boost. Good, that's quite nice. Actually, what am I doing there? That's the high frequency band. Got a bit confused there. Now notice I've cranked that a lot. That's because I've actually cut it at 12 kilohertz, and then I'm doing like a bump to really kind of get this sort of like top end, and then a roll off so it stays out of the way. Take that out. That's the sound. So let's see what happens there. Oh yeah. Bring that back a bit. Just muting it and checking it. Oh yeah. then let's do the same for that chorus, because I don't want that to get smaller. Bring that down a touch. Lovely. I'm liking the way that's sounding, and I'm probably gonna throw that in the backing vocals for later. Then the other thing I'm gonna want in a chorus is just something long. Always want a nice long thing in the chorus. Again, I'm just defaulting to Echo Boy because I really like the sound of it. I'm gonna go, I don't know, what have we got? I like the classics. I really like Memory Man. I used to own a Memory Man and I loved it, and for some reason I've never got it since. Quarter note, and then like, I don't know, eighth note triplet. Let's see what that sounds like. Always like those for the dual echoes, and then again, width, just not even a question. I just smack these out really wide. Okay, so let's go to that chorus where I actually want to hear this. And let's add in the chorus vocal. Where are you? Vocal chorus, and let's drag that in and get that. Okay, cool. Same thing I want to do here. Let's drag this across to cheat. Bring more of that out. Feel like this needs a different EQ. I might actually put some low end out. Yep, cool. The only thing I want to check here, get rid of saturation here, use the saturation on this. Sounds pretty good. Let's see what that sounds like in context. Oh, that needs to come up all the way, and I should be doing this here. Always find, like, do it from your sends and leave these level. Alright, let's check that. Let's check our spatial stuff with this can opener. So for those of you on headphones, you can have a listen to this and get an idea. Pretty much there. It's doing quite a lot. Not the can opener this. Well, I should check whether that Echo Boy is 100% mix. No, it's not, because I'm an idiot. Too much. Get this echo down a touch. I do find this a really useful plugin in the sense that it's giving me a bit better an idea. I tend to over-exaggerate reverbs and delays and things in my headphones, and this kind of gives me that kind of crossover. So let's go back to without it. Cool. So that the can opener kind of gives me like a second thing to reference, especially with spatial and panning and all that sort of stuff. It gives me a really good idea that I'm demoing this plugin at the moment. It's by a company called Good Hertz, and it just seems to me like a real lifesaver when I don't have speakers or when I'm doing lectures like this. So it's just a bit of a double thing that I can check. But I think that's probably a good place to stop there. So we've had kind of that discussion about kind of really got into this discussion about, what's happening on the mix bus. Has anything changed? How did I manage my plugins without crashing my computer? And notice if I bring a plugin back, for example, like this one, for the vocals and things, I haven't gotten rid of it because I tend to go back and tweak. If I want to unfreeze a plugin to retweak, I'll just leave it there, even though I've kind of put all the guitar ones in and put all the drum ones in. But there are things like, snare drums and things. So, that's another thing that I did do that you probably haven't seen, is I've just added a little bit of compression and a little bit of EQ to the snare. So let's have a listen to what's going on there. Without it, snare drum. Now with it. It's just kind of popping that snare through. So snare kick I'm leaving, like I froze it all down, then I brought the snare and the kick back instantly because I felt they needed a bit of love. Main drum thing, I've put a bit of an equilibrium. I'm just using a very clean EQ as if I had like a console, like an outboard EQ to do my drums. Then the drum crush is I'm doubling that up with the Purple Audio MC77, like getting that real smash, all buttons in thing. So I'll just do a quick solo out of what that sounds like. I'll turn that off. Back on. Doing that 1176 thing, and then obviously I've got two drum sections, so I'm just balancing between those. And you're hearing the reverb there as well. A bit less reverb. Let's check that in can opener. Can opener off. A real kind of, I'm kind of getting these two concepts that I'm sort of averaging out on here. Like, sounds to me like there is more reverb on the drums when the can opener is off and less when it's on. I'm kind of averaging between two different things. It's good. It's actually really good to have two different kind of presentations of it. Just want to have a listen. I haven't really done much on the acoustic guitar, so I might just do something quickly on that. Again, I'm just, no matter what, I'm just dumping this focus right on, and that's all I'm using. I'm not playing around with, I'm trying to play around with less and less things. So get some of that going on. We definitely need some high end there. Lovely. Let's get some of that fast compression going. Really drop that down, have a listen. Now I'm just listening for where it catches the strings. Release, I'm just bringing that out a bit. Just a little bit there, and then I'm kind of doing that thing again with the acoustic, crossing that threshold, dancing between those little threshold points there to kind of exaggerate the rhythm again, as usual. I really do like exaggerating that rhythm. Some mid-range, some little honk that I want to get rid of there. There it is. Lovely, let's choose a channel. There we go, 2021 seems right. Sure. Acoustic. Feel like that acoustic could go into a space. What do I want to do with that? Let's send that down to, whoops, that's hardware output. Let's send that down to the reverb. There we go, and see what happens. But not much. Just hitting that reverb, getting a bit of space around it. Without it, no space. With it, some space. Just some space. Might even pull out some more of this. Kind of exaggerate pulling that low mid out deliberately. So I'm pulling out more than I normally would just to make space for those electric guitars. Let's check that that's not a problem at the beginning. Oh, that voice sounds like it needs some help. Again, I'm taking advantage. I'm going fast, fairly slow. So all I've done there is add a little bit of presence. That can come out some more. Lovely. Let's get some reverb. That spreader in. Sometimes I put the low delay in to see what it sounds like. Again, let's use can opener to see if I've not overdone that. So sometimes I just put that really sort of slow delay in there just to fill in gaps. Listening on can opener just to see if it's... overdone it. Let's just dump those effects off and see what happens to the vocal when I remove that. So I've got that hard left-right vocal spreader, I've got the dancing delays, all very subtle, but watch what happens when I turn it off. I think that's enough said. That's really kind of ridiculous. Let's listen without can opener because I don't trust it. I don't know it well enough to trust it yet, so... Lovely. Cool. Alright, I think we can probably stop there. So, like, you know, just starting to put my spatial elements in and, you know, get everything sounding a bit cooler. That. Take the effects out. Boring. Now we're starting to get somewhere. This thing's actually starting to come together, and you know, we're not that far off, I think. Automation and all that sort of fun stuff needs to come in yet, but at the same time, we're getting closer and closer every day. See you all later.